Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show I read a lot of comic books and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first, I got to remind you once again that tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, May 22nd, on patreon.com/PCP, you can watch along with The Crow with me. That's right, I'm going to be watching Brandon Lee's The Crow on VHS, exclusive to our Patreon subscribers, and you can join up right now and have access to that event. We will be watching it along and having a nice chat, so join us over at patreon.com/PCP, and you also help support the channel. Alright, we always start with a pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Cobra Commander issue number 5. This is the final issue of Joshua Williamson's Cobra Commander, with Andrea Milana on the artwork, Annalisa Leone on the coloring, Russ Wooten on the lettering, and I'm going to tell you something. This delivered on every promise that Josh Williamson gave at the beginning of this series. He said that we would know beyond a shadow of a doubt why people like Destro, why people like the Dreadnoks not only follow Cobra Commander, but why they may even be afraid of him, right? In the original series of G.I. Joe, it always bothered me that Cobra Commander, who should be this awesome villain, was such a coward, right? He was always running away. He just seemed like a little wimp, right? But yo, this Cobra Commander is menacing. He is a legitimate threat, and the way that Josh has threaded in the Energon universe along with it for the foundation of not only G.I. Joe over at Duke, but with Cobra. This is what we get here. We get the rise and the formation of Cobra. This was an excellent final issue. This series has been gnarly, it's been violent, it's been bloody, and it's been intensely, insanely fun. This book has been fun, and what the Energon universe is doing, excuse me, they are bringing fun back into mainstream comics. This is the most fun I've ever had with G.I. Joe. This is some of the most fun I've ever had with Transformers. And Cobra Commander number 5, holy frickin' cow. Like I said, a pitch perfect ending that sets all of the pieces in place for the rise of Cobra, and I am all here for it. So it is super sad that Cobra Commander and Duke are over, but we got Scarlet and Destro right around the corner, and who knows? I bet they're building up to something. G.I. Joe, Cobra, of course they are, and we are all here for it. This was exciting, and this was awesome, and I was thrilled to read this, and it made me feel like an old school fanboy again. Cobra Commander number 5, that's your pick of the week. Also from the Energon universe, we have Void Rivals issue number 9. Now, I don't want to spoil anything, but a Transformer makes his first appearance in the Energon universe here, and it's Springer, because he's on the cover, right? But Void Rivals has been really cool. It was a little bit of a slow burn at first, but man, it got more and more engaging, more and more compelling. The whole idea of these two worlds around this like wormhole, and these two beings that are from these warring races on these two worlds, but they're basically the same. All of that is intriguing and cool, but the way that Robert Kirkman is able to lay in Void Rivals into the foundation and course of the Energon universe just works. And Springer is absolutely top notch. I love his personality here. Robert Kirkman nailed the the character, and I absolutely love this book. I thought it was cool. It's got moments of nuance too, with characters that you wouldn't expect to have nuance scenes filled with, but man, I loved this book. I thought it was funny, touching, action-packed, and exciting and dynamic. So Void Rivals, man, they're killing it right now. All right, then we got Blood Squad 7, issue number 1. This is a new book from Joe Casey, kind of spinning out of his recent Dutch series. But what this is it's kind of like a continuation of Youngblood, right? Youngblood, of course, is no longer, the rights for Youngblood are no longer with Rob Liefeld. The person who has them, they're not doing anything with them, and that kind of sucks, right? But Youngblood was a big deal back in the early days of Image, and Joe Casey's whole conceit about this series is, what if we went back and revisited that Image shared universe that they had in the beginning? Because Spawn, Savage Dragon, Cyberforce, Wildcats, Youngblood, Shadowhawk, These books all took place within the same continuity in those early days, but now, of course, all the Jim Lee stuff is gone. Most of the Rob Liefeld stuff is gone, but what if it wasn't? What if we could find a placeholder team, other characters to fit where Youngblood did fit in that early Image universe? That's what this is, a continuation of the concepts and ideas of the shared Image universe and Youngblood in particular, 30 years later. So it's dealing with a reforming of the team, Blood Squad 7, 30-something years after their heyday, after all the controversy, and I'm here for it. I absolutely love this book. We had Joe Casey on the channel about a month or two ago, and he actually gave me a look at both of, the first 2 issues of this series, and I'm really liking where it's going. It's taken some of those brilliant ideas that weren't necessarily executed perfectly or even kind of decently over in the early Youngblood issues. It's taking those ideas and it's really delivering something with it. I don't know if you can hear the crazy people that live underneath me, but they are making a lot of noise right now. Don't they know that we're filming the weekly comic book review? But Blood Squad 7 was super cool, and if you're a big fan of that shared Image universe, you should definitely check it out. Also, if you are a big fan of things like Watchmen, The Authority, Ultimates, Squadron Supreme, books that are trying to take the idea of superheroes and see how that impacts the real world, it's kind of following in those footsteps. I'm not saying it's at that level yet, but these first 2 issues that I have read were absolutely awesome. So Youngblood fans, rejoice. We don't have Youngblood, but we got Blood Squad 7. It's the next best thing. And I'm going to give the cover of the week to a variant. I think it's a 1 in 20 by Jim Rugg, doing his best 90s extreme style, and I'm all here for it. Apparently, I'm saying I'm all here for it so much today. For the comics I read this week were actually really good. In fact, there's one shocker of a good comic coming up that you'll see. But anyway, cover of the week to Jim Rugg for that. Then we've got Rook Exodus issue number 2, continuing the momentum established in the first issue, and I'm all here for it. But I really liked this issue. I thought it was solid. It didn't wow me as much as the first issue because you got the concepts, the world being introduced there. That was great. Here you get introduced to a new character, the Dire Wolf. She's going to be teaming up with Rook or maybe not teaming up with Rook, but the plot thickens, the chase begins, and I loved it. Also, Jason Fabok's artwork, highly detailed and absolutely astounding. Brad Anderson's coloring's pretty solid too. A bit browny and orangey too much at times, but overall it works for me. So Rook Exodus has got my approval. Then we got Feral issue number 3. It's like a zombie tale, but with cats. So it's like Stray Dogs was like a psychological crime thriller, murder mystery with dogs. This is a zombie tale with cats, right? There's a spread of rabies going around, and all these people are hunting down all these cats, and it's about this group of cats out there in the woods alone, trying to find their way back home, and the artwork is just amazing. Trish Forstner does all of the cats, Tone Rodriguez does all the backgrounds and the people, and it gives it that like Don Bluth, old school animated type feeling, and I love it. I'm all here for it. But Feral is a fun book. I love it. Got a tribute cover here to Megan. Haven't seen Megan yet. Have you? Is it good? Should I check it out? Let me know in the comments down below. We also got a 3rd printing of issue number 1 of Feral with a nice homage to the Cat People poster, so I really like that. I'm a sucker for these horror movie homage covers that Tony Fleece and company keep doing. As long as they keep doing them, I'm going to keep buying them. Speaking of Tony Fleece, we got Local Man returning here with issue number 10, and a really solid issue of Local Man. Local Man's kind of doing almost the same thing that Blood Squad 7 is doing, taking the idea of the Image extreme type characters from back in the 90s and moving it into today, 30 years later. What are these characters doing? How are they picking up the pieces? How do they deal with the ramifications of their legacy, of their past lives, stuff like that. But Local Man has been a really, really great book that's like a slice of Rob Liefeld and a slice of Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, but all 100% Tony Fleece and Tim Seeley. A solid book and a great return to form and fashion. That's a weird thing to say. Sam and Twitch Case Files, issue number 3 is here. Issue number 1 I thought was just kind of alright. 2 really kind of pulled me back in. 3 is keeping me engaged, but it didn't woo me as much as issue number 2. But Sam and Twitch have had a falling out. Twitch is going to another town to help an old buddy out with a mystery crime, and there's more to that case and more to that police squad than is known. You know what I'm saying? Definitely they're up to something, right? But it was a decent book. I really did enjoy this one. It's got that nice hard-boiled crime feeling. It's not reaching the heights that the Brian Michael Bendis run did back in the day, but it's still cool and it's still scratching that itch, and the lettering is continuing to improve from the first issue. Sam and Twitch, it's aight. Then we got the Holy Roller here with issue number 6. Only 3 more issues after this one. This is co-written by Andy Samberg, Rick Remender, Joe Truman. I'm just really astonished at how much I love this book. It has such a... It's got action, it's got heart, it's got like a message, but it's really funny at the same time, and I could totally see this being a movie starring Andy Samberg. But it's about a dude who goes back to his hometown. He's a Jewish guy. His town is filled with anti-Semitic assholes, and he has to become the Holy Roller, right? Because his dad's a bowler, so he's got this bowling ball, he's got this outfit, and just a great pace to this issue. It's been gone for like a couple months, it feels like, but it never disappoints me. I'm thrilled with this book. It sucks that it's ending at 9, but you know what? Every good story has a beginning, middle, and an end, and Holy Roller is approaching that end. Jumping over to Marvel, we got Blood Hunt issue number 2. I did get the red band edition. I did look at the regular edition, and there's very few differences this time compared to the first issue, but the differences are cooler, more gnarly, more gory, more bloody, more visceral, and I do like that. But the second issue of Blood Hunt was just kind of alright. It didn't really seem to move the plot forward too much. I don't know. There's something missing in this event. There's something disconnect going on right now. I'm having fun with it enough just because it's cool to see bloody, gory vampire stuff in the Marvel Universe. I'm on board for this run. I'm going to read the main series all the way through just to figure out what's going on with Blade. Blade's like the leader of the vampires now. He's obviously been possessed by some kind of force or something, but you don't get a whole lot of new information here in issue number 2. You just kind of get some of the pieces being put into place for the next part of this series. But all in all, it is aight. Then we've got Union Jack, the Ripper. This is a Blood Hunt tie-in. Union Jack's a cool character, I guess. I remember reading this Union Jack series from the late 90s that I really did like. I think it had John Cassaday covers. I don't think he did the interior, but I haven't read that in a long time. This is not necessarily the Union Jack that I remember. He's much more of a grumpy grouch, a lot more hardcore and a little bit more badass. If he's fighting vampires in London, trying to save some survivors, but he doesn't really care about saving the survivors as much as he cares about just killing and slaying vampires. But all of the Blood Hunt tie-ins so far, I have not liked, but I did like this one. And Kev Walker's on the artwork, and it's some of the better Kev Walker stuff I've seen. But it gets bloody, it gets gnarly, no red band necessary, but I did like this one, so I might encourage you to check that one out. Then we got Ultimate Black Panther issue number 4. Issue number 3 of Ultimate Black Panther came, I read it, and I remember in my review saying, something needs to happen. This book feels like way too much of a slow burn. Then I went back and I reread issue number 1 for a top-down look. So there's a top-down look at Ultimate Black Panther number 1 here on the channel. You can check that out. But when I revisited the first issue, I liked it so much more than the first time, right? So then I reread 2 and 3 in preparation for 4, and I'm loving this series, actually. I do like the approach. I like that slow, methodical pacing that it's got to it. All of these Ultimate books are kind of taking place in real time, so like 4 months has passed and you feel that passage of time, but everything is starting to come to a head here. All the pieces are being put into place, and I'm really excited to see where this series is going to go and how it's going to develop, but I like the utilization of all of these characters. I like this world that we're being built up. The Ultimate Wakanda world is not so much different than the regular 616, but it's different enough to keep it exciting, engaging, thrilling, and unexpected as to how it's going to develop. So Ultimate Black Panther number 4, I really did like. Then we got Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider issue number 1. Yo, a new Spider-Gwen number 1. There's a new Spider-Gwen number 1 every few months, it seems. I think one of the problems with this series overall is just the repeated reboots, the repeated miniseries. It's like, just let the book exist and build a following, right? Just come on, Marvel, just let the book build a following. That being said, I keep coming back to check out these #1 issues, and I liked this #1 issue. It wasn't bad. It was pretty decent. Spider-Gwen's in the 616. The TVA allows her to be there, but she's not allowed to use her powers or anything like that. Of course, though, she can't listen to them because she's a hero. And when people need help, she's going to help. So she's dealing with the ramifications of that. So it didn't like blow me away or nothing, but I really did like this. So here's a big surprise. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 50. Yes, I dropped Amazing Spider-Man. I quit reading it a couple issues ago. I was done. I was over the Zeb Wells run. Didn't care. Then I saw this cover and I was like, well, I got this sense that Norman was going to become the Green Goblin again, right? Yo, that's what happens. Norman becomes the Green Goblin again, and I'm such a Goblin fan that I wanted to read this to see how they did it, and I did like it. And the art by Ed McGuinness is freaking fantastic. Freaking fantastic. I love his Goblin. This was a very exciting issue. Lots of action, lots of betrayal, lots of, but I knew you were going to betray me. Well, I knew that you knew you were going to betray me. Well, I knew that you knew that you knew that you were going to betray me. So I really did like this issue. I thought it was super cool. The Ed McGuinness artwork really did set it off. There's a bunch of backup stories back there because it's an issue 50, so they're trying to make you pay $10 for this book. Wow, never mind, this book sucks. It's not worth $10, but I really like the Goblin stuff. I like that turn, I like that twist. Even though we all saw it coming, even if you quit reading the book, you saw this thing coming. The backup stories, though, I didn't even read them. Ignore that. See if you can, like, rip out just the main Goblin story. Maybe your shop will give you a discount. Just kidding, don't do that. But I'm not saying this is worth $10, but I'm saying if you do read Amazing Spider-Man, have no fear. At least, like, a good chunk of this book is pretty solid. I really did think so. Then we got Ghost Rider Final Vengeance issue number 3. Almost didn't read this one. It was a stacked week. I got a late start. So I almost didn't read this one, but I'm glad I did. It's not the greatest thing in the world. People keep telling me that Benjamin Percy's Ghost Rider is really good, and I kind of dropped out of it, but now the Hood has the Spirit of Vengeance, so it gave me a chance to come back in and check it out, and it's decent. It's not terrible. It's decent. It's okay. It's like, if, I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it's okay. It's just okay. But it's not totally bad. I'm kind of liking it, but I'm not necessarily digging it. Does that make sense? And then I want everybody to know that there is a cool facsimile edition, another facsimile edition of New Mutants 98. So I have all the Rob Liefeld New Mutants books except for New Mutants 98. So it was cool to grab up a foil facsimile of it. And I just love these foil facsimiles. So I had to snatch it up. This is probably going to fly off shelves because it's a foil facsimile of the first appearance of Deadpool. People are going to be coming after it. But I'm telling you what, you do a foil facsimile, Marvel, DC, I'm pretty much gonna get it. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have Wonder Woman issue number 9 from Tom King, Daniel Samperi. And yo, this was a great issue. In fact, it was like pick of the week worthy. I almost picked it as my pick of the week, but I wound up going with the Cobra Commander just because of the fulfilled promise there. This was a really great issue. So Wonder Woman has been captured by the Sovereign. A couple issues ago, or last issue, they're like putting her in this mental space where she's like a housewife, and they're trying to domesticate Wonder Woman. That doesn't work. So now in this one, they just throw her into a dungeon. The only thing that keeps her going through it is her memory of her love for Steve Trevor, right? So the whole issue is her having these mental conversations with Steve and exploring their relationship. So it does a great job of just kind of dealing with this part of the story of Wonder Woman in captivity, but also talking about her relationship with Steve, her history with Steve. It plays so many different levels at the same time, and by the end has a very strong and poignant and slightly profound ending. So I really, really like this book. When Tom King first started on Wonder Woman, I wasn't down for it, but it kept getting a little bit more compelling. It kept pulling me back in. And now it's like, I actually look forward to reading it. So, issue number 9 of Tom King's Wonder Woman, I loved it. I thought that was like Pick of the Week contender. Then we got Batman Superman World's Finest, issue number 27. Really solid artwork from Dan Mora. I'm enjoying this story where basically Mixtus and Batmite, they have other friends, like their own super friends. They're fifth dimensional imps as well, but there's one for Green Lantern, there's one for Flash, and all that kind of stuff, right? But they also have corresponding imps for the villains, right? So Sinestro has one, Black Manta has one. They've all come to Earth and they are wrecking the Justice League, right? So that's what we're dealing with here. Meanwhile, we got Clark and Bruce kind of going through other dimensions, being led there by Batmite. I love the way that they're using them. Like when they're in two-dimensional space, they look like the old cartoon. So that's super cool. The opening of it really cracked me up. It's Batmite, the animated series, basically. I love this book. I think it's so much fun. There is another artist on the bits where Bruce and Clark are going through the other realities, but it doesn't feel too jarring of a style change because they're going through other dimensions and stuff like that. So this book continues to just deliver classic superhero fun, and Mark Waid is engaging us in a really cool, fun story. So Batman Superman World's Finest 27 continues to shine. Superman number 14. All right, the last part of the House of Brainiac, part number 3. This is part 4. I jumped the gun and I said, this book needs to get to it. We all know that the Brainiac Queen is coming. Can we just get to it? I feel like we're kind of wasting our time. No. No. After reading issue 14, it was all for a purpose. You get the rise of the Brainiac Queen here, but you needed everything that came before to set up this moment. And this moment freaking rocks. This issue was great. First of all, the first part of the issue is just a big slam bang, big and boisterous and explosive fight between Lobo and Superman. Then you get to the creation of the Brainiac Queen. It gets a little eerie, a little creepy, a little Frankenstein-y. And at the end of it, I was like, holy freaking cow, that was awesome. So Josh Williamson really played it perfectly with the pace in House of Brainiac so far. And here at issue number 4, what a big moment. In fact, tons and tons of big moments. And the artwork by Sandoval is stunning. Rafa Sandoval, Miguel Mendonça, absolutely stunning. This is the kind of art I want to see in a Superman book. Then we've got Nightwing here with issue number 114. This is the first part of Fallen Grayson, which is the 5-part finale of the Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo run. I liked this issue a lot. Heartless. I was like, Heartbeat? Heartbeat? No, what's the song? 'Cause I'm heartless, and I'm back in my ways 'cause I'm heartless. Anyway, or a woman so heartless, you know, Kanye West. Anyway, Distracted. Nightwing was pretty solid. Heartless starts making his move, right? His big plan, and it's pretty awesome, right? And there's like a little framing sequence where you know that Nightwing's gonna like fall in Grayson. He's gonna have everything taken away from him. We built him up to tear him down only so that he can rise again. But I'm all here for it. Say it along with me. But Nightwing number 114, some really solid artwork from Bruno Redondo. He's been off of this book for a moment, so it's nice to see him come back. And his style, his composition, his line work, everything is great. In fact, I think Bruno Redondo has just strengthened as an artist as this series has progressed. Then we got Titans issue number 11, also from Tom Taylor. And we're dealing with the fact that since the end of Beast World, Raven is gone. And it's like Raven's demonic side that has taken over. And maybe some of the Titans realize it. And maybe Nightwing has a contingency. Really cool moment in here. Also, we get introduced to like a Titans version of Amazo here that I thought was really cool. I was intrigued by that person's story. But then there's this really interesting thing with Nightwing kind of having his own version of Azura and R type thing that I think Tom Taylor played up pretty freaking well. So Titans number 11 continues the consistency of that book. Green Lantern War Journal issue number 9, big revelatory issue talking about the Dark Star, talking about how it's connected in this new mythology they've been building up. Philip Kennedy Johnson's doing a great job with the characters, with the lore and mythology, and just keeping us on our feet, on our toes. All the stuff with John's mother is like heartbreaking and truly you're kind of like feeling for her, right? And then all the stuff with the Starheart or the Dark Star is like super freaking intriguing and interesting, and some of the first stuff since Jeff Johns created the emotional spectrum, some of the first stuff since then that I'm like, okay, this is how you kind of tweak the ancient mythology, right, and make it work for you and make it exciting and make it revelatory. Man, this book is awesome. Just found out it's going to end at issue number 12, which sucks, but it's still a great book. Speaking of ending, Alan Scott Green Lantern number 9 or number 6 is here. This is the final issue. I've liked this series. I thought it had some really great moments. Thought it had some moments that were just all right. The ending is just all right. The ending was a little bit bloated, in my opinion. It kind of ended a few times. It was kind of like Return of the King, where he's like, okay, it's over, and you're going to get up and leave the theater. You're like, oh no, I'm just going to sit back down for 45 more minutes. But anyway, Alan Scott Green Lantern, it was a decent book, maybe a little bit clunky on the ending, but all of the intent and the emotion is there. It just kind of got a little choppy feeling for me towards the ending there. Then we've got Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, issue number 7. This is the final issue. I really liked this series when it first started. Then it just kind of became all right. And the ending is just kind of all right as well. It kind of loses a lot of its resonance that it had in those early issues. Going back and rereading it, though, maybe it doesn't necessarily have that. Maybe I was just surprised that even a book that's an obvious cash grab, like a Godzilla Kong Justice League crossover, would actually have some balls in its story. But it actually does kind of work. It's a satisfying enough conclusion, but a very quick conclusion. You're just like, oh, so that happens, and then that happens in a punch, and it's over? Really? So it was a little bit disappointing for me, but it was still all right. Then we've got Batman First Night, the Batman First Night, issue number 3, final issue of this DC Black Label book from Dan Jurgens. Amazing artwork from Mike Perkins and amazing coloring from Mike Spicer. This book, I know a lot of people that are into this book. It never really quite won me over, and the conclusion didn't either. It kind of felt a little long, kind of felt a little boring to me throughout, but it's Batman Year 1 in 1939. We've seen this kind of thing before, but we haven't really seen it done with this beautiful textured level of artwork, so I love the artwork, but just the story never really completely grabbed me, and honestly, I'm kind of glad it's over. Anyway, speaking of foil facsimiles, though, we got Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue number 2, foil facsimile edition. There's a regular facsimile edition too. And what I love about the DC facsimiles is they're actually printed on a newsprint type paper, so I think it looks better than, say, that New Mutants one. But once again, you do a foil of a facsimile of something I want, and I'm going to check it out. So there you go, Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue number 2 facsimile. They're going to be doing all 12 issues of that series. John Constantine, Hellblazer, Dead in America, issue number 5. A super solid issue of Simon Spurrier's Vertigo-esque Hellblazer tale. This one is neat because it's got a few different artists, because it's got like 4 stories going on, and all of them, this whole series, it's Constantine going through America, and this whole series, kind of like the Brian Azzarello run, is making statements on certain things about America from a UK perspective, I guess, but I really like it. So there's a story about a Native American kind of losing his faith, but regaining it through tragedy. There's a story about this crazy monster. There's a story about the Chupacabra, right? And all of them were really fun. You have John McCrae doing art here. You have other people too. So even with the change of art, it all worked for me, and say it along with me, I'm here for it. Hellblazer continues to impress me. All right, we got a new one from Distillery. It's a new Scott Snyder, Francisco Francavilla book, White Boat. We saw this previewed in the Devil's Cut one-shot. I really like Francisco Francavilla's artwork. The artwork in this book is stunning. In particular, the coloring. I adore Francisco's coloring. Great bold choices that really work together and pop off the page. And the story is really cool too. There's like, turned the AC off because I didn't want it running. I should have just turned it on. I'm sweating like crazy right now. Anyway, White Boat was intriguing. It's about this dude. He lost his brother in a boating accident. He's like writing for like this yacht journal or something like that, and he's out there to explore the mysterious White Boat, this giant, huge, expensive yacht that actually has a lot more mystery attached to it than he thought. So it kind of gets into this weird Lovecraftian, paranoia-driven type story that I really liked. It didn't get bogged down by the worriness of Scott Snyder. Sometimes his work can do that. Like he's got Dudley Datsun out today, but I didn't read it because that one just kind of got bogged down. But this one had a nice flow to it, a nice mystery, and it felt like something that I can really sink my teeth into. Like I said, Lovecraftian, paranoia, mystery, horror from Francisco Francavilla and Scott Snyder. I really did like that one. The Butcher's Boy issue number 1 is a new one from Dark Horse, and it was pretty cool. It's got artwork by Justin Greenwood, who does the Army of Darkness book, which is also out today. But it's about these friends who go to this like ghost town that's supposed to be haunted, and one of them wants to go there and stream and try to go viral. But it's a bunch of friends that are kind of loosely connected, and all the drama's building up on their way. So most of the series is focused on that. But in the very, very beginning, you get flashes and glimpses of the horror that is about to arrive to this friend group, right? So the way it was structured actually made it work, because if it didn't have the bits in the very beginning, I really wouldn't have wanted to come back for more. But having known now a glimpse of where this story is going, because of the structure of this book, I'm all here for it. All right, that's enough of that. Then we got Conan the Barbarian, issue number 9 or 11. Jim Zub is killing it on the pages of Conan, and so is the artist, who I believe is Raphael, or is it Roberto? Rob De La Torre. I love the artwork. It's like old school John Buscema type stuff, but the story is really cool. Conan's like back in time. He's met Kull. They go to Atlantis. There's a big twist at the end here. This stuff is great. You know, I love this book at first because it made me feel what I felt when I would go dig Savage Sword of Conan out of my stepdad's closet and read those. It was gnarly, it was violent, it was sexy, it was everything that I think Conan should be. And he's actually elevated that by having an ongoing, continuing story that doesn't get bogged down by the weight of its own ambition. This book is clear, this book is clean, this book is beautiful. I freaking love it. Conan the Barbarian, why aren't you reading it? Then we got Blue Book, 1947, issue number 4, the penultimate issue of Blue Book 1947, my bad. I am hot. It is sweaty. Anyway, Blue Book, 1947, issue number 4, doing the post-Roswell part of the story now, the dying down of the craze about flying saucers, taking that through the 50s and 60s and the 70s into the 80s, kind of telling us how the story of Roswell has been shaped and how it's developed from so many different perspectives, so many views, so many different hands, so many cooks in the kitchen. I'm loving this book. It even goes into the 90s with like the alien autopsy and stuff. So if you are into alien mythology, if you're into UFO lore, ufology, you definitely need to be reading this book. It presents itself like Unsolved Mysteries, basically. It's very just stating facts and showing the images that go along with it. So it's not like a narrative or anything, but I find it really compelling and cool. So if you're into alien stuff, check that out. From Archie Comics, we have Judgment Day, issue number 1. This is from Aubrey Sitterson, Megan Hutchinson. This one's all right. It's a little bit unclear. It's like an apocalyptic Archie story where all these demons have been loosed. So now Archie has to be tied to a demon that's going to serve him so that he can help fight the demons. It was all right. It had some really gnarly artwork. It had some cool ideas to it, but it kind of felt like we missed the beginning of the story, and I would have liked to actually seen where this goes, but maybe that's something we're going to see in a future issue, so I may come back and check some more out. Plus, Aubrey had put a playlist in the back. I added it to my Spotify. I haven't checked it out, but I'm going to be listening to that. But Archie Comics Judgment Day, it was all right. Then we got Thundercats issue number 4 here. Love that Liefeld cover. Calica right there, the new character that was created for the series by Declan Shalvey. This is the end of the first arc, and there's going to be like a guest issue in between, and then I think we get back to where we're building up with the Declan Shalvey story. But I really like the book. I think it's solid. It's not like the Energon universe. It's not that exciting. It's not quite up there, but Drew Moss and Declan Shalvey, they're delivering on the story. They're delivering on everything, and everything starts turning here in issue number 4. There's betrayal, there's loss, there's casualty. So I do like it. I do like this book. I like this book. It's not on the level that Transformers and the Joe stuff is, but it is pretty solid and decent, and I'm loving it. Army of Darkness Forever issue number 8 is here, though. Oh, wow, I love this book. Tony Fleece is the writer here. Justin Greenwood is the artist. Oh no, Justin Greenwood is not the artist on this book. Oh, I should have noticed. This is Pop Man. So there's a different artist here, but I still like it. This is a direct continuation from Army of Darkness, and Tony Fleece is playing with the Middle Ages, 1993 and 2023 or 2093 in the future. Ash has been fooled again. He's stranded in the future. He's got to collect the Necronomicons again to try to get home. Big crazy things are happening here, but if you're a fan of the Evil Dead franchise, you definitely need to be reading that book. Elvira meets H.P. Lovecraft, issue number 4, a book that doesn't take itself too seriously, except for the fact of this. It has to be as serious as Elvira is, which isn't very serious, but it's taking the character of Elvira and the legacy of Elvira seriously by making something very fun, very tongue-in-cheek, very light, and also with a lot of pop culture references. Of course, Lovecraft references here, but I'm really digging this book, and it's been one of my favorite, most consistent Dynamite titles. Then we got Man's Best here with issue number 3. The story got really weird and wonky. It's about these 2 dogs and a cat, and they're on a spaceship with their human. Spaceship crashes, they can't find their human. It's like Homeward Bound now. They're trying to find their human, and they wind up finding these like metaphysical beings or something like that, and it gets weird and wild and wacky. Then it has a big revelation at the end that I did really like, but what sells me on this book and keeps me coming back is Jesse Lonergan's artwork. I love his panel design, I love his page layout, I love his composition, and it really works with some of these wild, crazy ideas that are in Man's Best. So it's not, story-wise, it's not as engaging as I want it to be, but the art is so freaking beautiful. It's just top-notch. Then we got The Fog here with issue number 4. I thought this was the final issue of The Fog. If this is not the final issue of The Fog, I will say another great chapter in what has been a really solid sequel to The Fog. A sequel I never thought I wanted 40 years later. What's going on in Antonio Bay, but it actually works. If this is the final issue, and for some reason in my head I think it is, if this is the final issue, I thought it was kind of a weak ending, honestly. But I don't know. If there's one more issue in particular, I think they could nail it. But if this is the final issue, it's all right. That being said, it's still a really solid sequel to The Fog, which seems like an impossible task to do, but they're making it work in those pages. All right, and then finally, I want to point this out from IDW. We got the Artisan edition of the EC covers. So they've already released this in a big hardcover. Some of those things they re-release in smaller paperback forms that are way cheaper. Like this is only $40, and it's the original cover art for a lot of stuff. So you're going to get stuff like Wally Wood, you're going to get Frank Frazetta, Bill Elder, Al Williamson, Harvey Kurtzman, Marie Severin, Johnny Craig. You're going to get all those amazing artists and their original cover arts reproduced here for you, and I think it's great, and it's a really cool companion piece to the EC archives and paperback that Dark Horse has been releasing now. I've been collecting all of those up. I got this. I also got, they did another EC Artisan Edition paperback. I have that as well. I want the full, complete EC collection. So thank you so much, IDW and Dark Horse, for helping me do that. Anyway, so check that out. And so to recap, oh, I have to cut this in real quick because I totally forgot it because it was sitting in the other room. Blood Commandment is out in trade paperback this week, so definitely pick this up. This is from Szymon Kudronsky. This was a really great book about vampires, faith, and family. And your boy got a quote on the back. So on the back, it's got quotes from Mark Millar, Rodney Barnes, Chris from Lost in Comics, Nick from Comic Culture, and me, Rockin' Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers. This is the third time I've had a pull quote on a trade paperback by the Horns, Beware the Eye of Odin, and now Blood Commandment. So Mr. Kudronsky, thank you so much. Station. Let's get back to the video. The Fog. If this is the end, it's kind of weak. If it's not the end, I'm excited for it. Man's Best, losing me a little bit on story, but that art is wild. Elvira is consistent as hell. Army of Darkness Forever is the best Army of Darkness comic I've ever read. Thundercats continues to be really solid. I am enjoying this series, even though it's not as dynamic as some other things out there. Archie Comics Judgment Day, a lot of promise. We'll see how that develops. Blue Book 1947, if you like UFOs and Roswell and all that kind of stuff, check it out for sure. Conan the Barbarian clear and clean Conan stories, yo. This is where it's at. Then we got The Butcher's Boy. Because of the framing and structure of this series, I am very intrigued and enticed to see where this is going to develop. White Boat, issue number 1. Great colors and artwork from Francisco Francavilla, and a really cool story steeped in Lovecraftian paranoia. Then we got John Constantine, Hellblazer, Dead in America, issue number 5. I'm loving the series, exploring America through Constantine's eyes. Foil edition of Crisis, issue number 2. Batman the First Night, issue number 3. Never really liked this series. Great artwork, though, but I'm kind of glad it's over. The ending of Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong was a little bit of a letdown, but to be honest, it was the last couple issues that were really the letdown for me. Alan Scott Green Lantern, a little bit clunky and drawn out of an ending, but still a solid series nonetheless. Green Lantern War Journal, really tweaking the mythology of the Green Lantern lore and making it work and really doing a great stuff. Great job with the character of John Stewart and his family. Then we got Titans number 11 being consistent. Nightwing setting up the final story from Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. Great art and a really solid story there. Superman. This was it, yo. The Brainiac Queen is gnarly. I love it. Batman Superman, World's Finest. It's Dan Moore and Mark Waid and company. Come on, it's great. Wonder Woman keeps strengthening. Keeps strengthening, and I love it. I'm all... New Mutants 98, foil facsimile. Come on, y'all. It's Rob Liefeld Gold. Then we got Ghost Rider Final Vengeance. It's not bad, so I kind of like it. Amazing Spider-Man number 50. Way too expensive, but man, the art in here and the big turn in the return of the Green Goblin, that kind of got me excited. Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider issue number 1 wasn't bad. It was kind of fun. Ultimate Black Panther, I'm really getting into this series. If you weren't liking this series and you got the issues, go back and reread them and see what you think. Union Jack the Ripper, part of the Blood Hunt. This is the only one of the tie-ins so far that I've really liked. Blood Hunt number 2 could have delivered a little bit more, but it was still all right. The artwork by Pepe Larraz is great there. Holy Roller is so freaking solid. This is an undersung book this year, and I hope more people read that. Sam and Twitch issue number 3. It's pretty solid. Local Man returns in epic fashion. So cool. A third printing of Feral number 1 as an homage to Cat People. Then you got the Megan cover here for issue number 3, and I love this book. If you liked Stray Dogs, no reason why you're not going to love that. It's a decent story, and it's got even better artwork. Rook Exodus number 2 takes all the world building and established stuff from the first issue and kicks it up a little bit, and we get an action-packed issue right there. Then we've got Blood Squad 7. What if Youngblood existed today, but they were called Blood Squad 7? They were always called Blood Squad 7, and what happens 30 years later? That's what happens there, plus Jim Rugg gets the cover of the week. Oh, and I forgot, Local Man gets the smell of the week. Local Man smells so freaking good. I was reading this book, and I was just like, I could smell it, and I was just like, you know what? That's the smell of the week, because it's rising off those pages. Void Rivals introduces Springer to the Energon universe, and it was awesome. But Cobra Commander number 5, the pick of the week, because Joshua Williamson delivers on his promise, gives us a very exciting conclusion, and shows us the establishment of Cobra, the coming together of Destro and Cobra Commander. And it works. It's so freaking awesome. So that's what I read. That's what I thought. That's what I dug. What are you reading? What are you thinking? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. And join us for the watch along for The Crow, May 22nd, 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop. Boom!